process that we went through in order to create this book on the rise and the fall of the Berlin Wall, the process that we're currently in the midst of, is as follows. I have 55 10th grade students, and they are genuinely a special group of students. And so I felt empowered to engage in this experiment with them. There are different roles that students have chosen. Some of them have chosen to do quantitative analysis. What I mean by that is we have 4 students who are looking at charts and maps and graphs, and they're trying to tell the story of the wall using that quantitative data.
Just showed me a couple of really interesting facts that really astonished me somehow, because it really showed, for instance, the immigration between East Germany and West Germany, and it was interesting, even if the information was hard to find.
I have some students who have a particular penchant for the arts and for photography, and 4 students are looking at the rise and the fall of the Berlin Wall and living with the wall through photos.
I never used to really like Berlin. I was always like, oh, you know, I'm in Berlin, blah. And my friends were always like, oh, let's go out, Berlin's so awesome. I'd be like, no, not really. But then I took these pictures and I took my own little tour and stuff like that. And I took these amazing pictures and I saw Berlin, and it is totally cool. It's like awesome, and I'm always like, yeah, let's go out now. In this one picture, there's this handicap sign, and then next to it is the Fernsehturm. I kind of took it like together, and I think it kind of shows like how in the East the people, like now the Fernsehturm is in the East, and it shows like how the people were kind of handicapped, as in they didn't have what the other people had on the other side. And yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures.
That one picture of the Potsdamer Platz, that really big glass building, I took that picture because the light was shining on it, and it just showed that Berlin is really modern and has new buildings and is also really beautiful in a way. And then I also have pictures of Potsdamer Platz after the wall fall, and there are no buildings at all. It's just dead space, and so it was pretty awesome that there was this really big glass building where there used to be nothing. And yeah, comparing it to Berlin after the wall fall, you can't really like not say that there's a difference, because before was nothing and now there's like everything. That the wall fell, and that was a good change, and that they started being more modern and building really beautiful buildings like glass and just modern stuff. That was really great.
The majority of my students, 39 out of 55 of the students, are engaging in qualitative interviews. They're doing 1-hour interviews with someone who has an interesting story or an interesting angle on living with a wall. And they had to go out and do those interviews and transcribe the interviews, leaving us with about 300 pages of single-spaced, raw, qualitative data.
I've lived in Berlin for over 10 years, and I've never actually researched and found out that there's so much history in Berlin.
He told me his whole life story from the beginning to the end. He told me a lot of things I didn't know. It was nice speaking to somebody who's actually been there, his personal experience, telling me what he's been through.
Well, I felt really overwhelmed because the person I was interviewing told me about how it felt to go across the border and how scared they were that they were going to be stopped and interrogated for hours just because they said something wrong. It was really overwhelming, and it's like you were trying to put yourself in that situation, but you couldn't because you have no idea how it would have felt, even though you know it was mostly fear. The people that were interrogating the people who had said something wrong were portraying the government, because the government was having a lot of problems, and so It wasn't mostly for fun what they did, just because of orders of the government. And that did show that the government was doing something wrong, and that the government was only trying to show the people that they were doing something, even though the something they were doing was wrong.
I chose my neighbor because he was Turkish, and I thought him being Turkish would make the interview a bit more interesting. Well, one thing that really struck me was that he didn't, like, him being Turkish didn't really affect his position at all on, like, why the wall was there and this stuff too. I mean, because he grew up right there and he just accepted it and how it was.
He was a person that worked at the embassy, American embassy, so he traveled from west to east almost every day. And he pretty much just observed everything that was going on. He was watching the police patrol the border. He listened to Reagan's speech over on the east side.
I interviewed a teacher, and it was actually really significant about the stories that she told about her father, her grandmother, and so on, her family, how her family was separated by the wall, and she shows a lot of emotions within the interview, and it really struck me because it was emotional. It was powerful. You know, she thought a lot about it, and it really affected her life. And through her teaching, you don't really perceive that, but when you really sit down and talk to her, it's really great.
It was really strange just talking to someone who lived during that time, even though we really think that it was a long time ago. It happened only about 50 years ago, and it just seems strange that everything has changed so quickly.
Well, I was really amazed when I first heard that my dad was starting helping people across the border. I never believed that he got involved in some Secret Service agency where he would get people into a car and they would then drive away across the border.
People just tend to not talk about terrible things that they experienced. Because when I interviewed my grandfather, it was the first time that he actually talked to me about the whole war and the whole Cold War issue. And it was pretty emotional because it was actually the first time. And the most important thing was actually that people just shouldn't forget about it. And during the interview, my grandmother actually started crying because we were talking about the air raid and the Luftbrücke, and she started crying because she said, well, stop talking about it, I still dream of it today, because she always had to drive back and forth between the border when they wanted to go on vacation with their children, and she was always very scared. The most important thing that I learned was actually that if one has experience, he should pass it on to his relatives. The interview itself didn't make me sad, but I was kind of shocked that my grandfather didn't take the initiative to talk about all the things that he has experienced. Because I find it kind of sad that, I mean, if I have a grandfather that can talk to me about the things, about the history, then I think he really should do it. And after the interview, I was shocked, because I didn't know that my family actually has gone through these things.